All right, I'm a little bit out of it. I literally got blown up yesterday. Okay, maybe not blown up, but I had a small explosive go off in front of my feet. I'm a little shell-shocked, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, also a little hungover from yesterday, to be completely honest with you. But I still wanted to keep my promise and provide you the news that happened last week that you should know about, and bring you the most important stories that have been censored away from the US mainstream media. And to do that today, we're gonna do things a little bit differently. Instead of me just narrating all the news stories, we're gonna have Sargon of Akkad, Lauren Southern, and Jeff Berwick of the Dollar Vigilante provide you the most important information that you should know about that happened this week. Starting off first with Sargon. Sargon?
Well, you might have heard about this one because this one it caused quite a stir. I'm looking at a report from The Guardian, and this is one of the best arguments against just Middle Eastern regime change that I've ever heard. The headline of the article is "Migrants from West Africa being sold in Libyan slave markets." I just want to stress that didn't happen under Gaddafi. So for all of his faults, there weren't slave markets in his country, which I think that anyone can agree that is a significant backward slide in progression. One of the problems that I have with what happened with Libya is the state of Libya before and the state of Libya afterwards. And I mean, before, Libya had the highest human development index in all of Africa, remarkably socialist country, and this was all funded by the oil wealth. The government used to give newly married couples $50,000. They used to have subsidized petrol, subsidized electricity. They even used to get oil revenue distributed amongst the population as like a few $100s a month. Not necessarily regularly, but every now and again there would be a dollar. And so when I started seeing Western powers deliberately trying to destabilize the country and then eventually go in and overthrow it, and I was watching the propaganda campaign go along. I mean, one of the most ridiculous stories I saw was the idea that Gaddafi had called in a crate of Viagra to try and make his soldiers even more rapey or something, so they would be more encouraged to commit war crimes or something. I'm thinking, well, God, I don't think you ever need to actually spend money to encourage soldiers to commit war crimes if they're in the heat of things. That's just a ridiculous, and that's such an obvious lie that why would you even say it? It's bizarre. But yeah, so after the propaganda campaign basically convinced the public that it was okay to do this. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that Gaddafi was a good guy either. I'm sure that he was very much in the mold of Putin, where any threats to his direct power, he would just quietly disappear, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. But I think you actually have to look at sort of a Hegelian sort of viewpoint when you look at the Middle East. It's easy when you're in a safe Western democracy that has constitutions and a history of passing down power through administrations and a good, solid democracy that demands accountability of their politicians. It's easy to just look at another country and say, well, you should do it like we do. Why don't you do it like we do? But it's a lot more difficult in practice, especially when there are potentially thousands of Islamist jihadis in your country who, if they get to take over, will start trading black slaves from West Africa. It's really is a return to about 300 years ago. So it's such a tragedy, and I don't know what's being done about it either. I mean, it's such breaking news. I doubt much is being done. And at this point, Libya is effectively a failed state between Tripoli and Benghazi, and then the tribal areas in the south. And I would be surprised if there were many people in Libya who are really pleased with the change. So when the corporate media starts beating the drum to war for Syria or Iran or whichever regime they want next, be skeptical. Be really skeptical. Actually, and another thing that's really important to remember is that rarely do they actually have journalists on the ground. They don't bother. They're lazy, and it's cheaper for them not to. It's cheaper for them to just to buy the government's stock line. Look at the number of articles you see that are either based around tweets or based around press releases from governments with no further investigation, no critical thinking. And they're just parroted down from on high. Well, the intelligence agencies say it. The CIA have said it. Well, good grief. If the CIA said it, that's pretty much how I know it's fake. So just, you've got to check for yourself. You've got to spend the time. And if you don't have the time to do it, find some outlet like, say, Luke or myself or anyone else. It doesn't have to be us. It could be anyone who does take the time to investigate into these things and doesn't just regurgitate what they're being told, because that's it. I think really bad things have been done under the guise of, yeah, well, he's a dictator, he's an autocrat. So, yeah, but it's a different way of life. It's a different country. There's different problems, different situations. And we know what happens when we just go in there bullishly. So just be skeptical. That's my opinion.
They literally bombed them to the Stone Age, literally, and created a failed state. And, and as many politicians and as many people are making the call, when did U.S. intervention actually work in the right way? Sargon, thank you so much for that important news update. Appreciate your work. Your YouTube channel will be in the link below. I definitely recommend people check out Sargon and the incredible, amazing work he does. Thank you again, once again, from the bottom of my heart. And now, crazy right-wing extremist Lauren Southern. Go!
Yeah, okay, cool. Hey guys, so as you've probably seen from a few of Luke's videos over the last few days, the Battle of Berkeley just took place after some free speech activists, including myself, showed up to hold a rally in Berkeley to defend free speech and patriotism and all these kind of things. And of course, the super progressive, wonderful left showed up to sit down and have a conversation with us, as well as throw some M80s, bricks, and bagels along with that conversation, which ended up in total and absolute chaos of riots in the street. It was literal anarchy. I know Jeff is going to freak out with me saying
that's not
that.
Anarchy, that's statism.
And that's statism, he's saying. Yeah, well, actually what happened was the police had told us, the free speech activists, that it was all cool, it was all going to be okay, they were going to defend us, and in fact, they're going to defend us so great that we don't need any of our own defense. We need to leave our pepper spray at home, we need to leave our shields and sticks at home, and they got us. So they surrounded us, we disarmed, and Antifa showed up, not coming into the park with all of their weapons, and then out of nowhere, as soon as Antifa started throwing M80s, boom, the police were nowhere to be seen. They disappeared and we were left unarmed to be the bait of Antifa, and they started throwing bricks and it just turned into chaos in the streets. Luckily, though, Antifa made some very poor battle decisions, including throwing a smoke bomb while the wind was going in their direction, causing the Trump supporters to push back and run at them, and it just became a massacre with fists of Antifa running and tripping and falling, and Trump supporters running them out of the streets. Now, I do say Trump supporters, but what I really mean is a lot of these people a lot of them supported Trump, but there were classical liberals there, free speech activists, and a lot of people that just didn't want to see an event promoting free speech being shut down for obvious reasons. You didn't see people on the free speech side bringing bear mace with them to spray in people's faces, and you didn't see them posting on social media that they were going to kill and bash in the skulls of people on the other side. It was all these militant Antifa that have become a serious problem in the Berkeley area and have just been totally radicalized and indoctrinated by their school systems and governments who have told them that they need to shut down the free speech of fellow citizens. It was absolute insanity, but it was good to see that for the first time in a while, Berkeley's had a few of these events, including Milo Yiannopoulos, who was shut down, and another rally where Base Stickman became initially famous that was attempted to be shut down by Antifa. This is the first time that Antifa have been run out of the area and people were allowed to have their free speech. So as much as it sucks that this is the state of political discourse in 2017, where people are no longer bringing signs and their voices and arguments, and instead they're bringing fists and mace, at least I can say I genuinely believe that the bad guys in this situation lost. It may seem like a loss for everyone with the state of political discourse, but if we allow Antifa and these militant leftists to shut down our free speech, now just a few people at the Berkeley riot, then they have the ability to shut down everyone's free speech, and no one wants that world. And if I have to take a few punches or mace to the face to protect it, then I will do that, as well as many of the other patriots that showed up there today. Don't let the media lie to you and pretend that this was some sort of radical versus radical. This is people on the ground and patriots fighting for their free speech when the government want us divided more than ever and won't come in and stop these militants on the ground of Berkeley. Anyways, how do I end this? How do I end this?
That was such a very fair, unpartisan analysis. Thank you so much, Lauren. I really appreciate that.
Jeff, what happened in the news this week?
Well, the thing is, never watch the news because they will never tell you what's actually going on. It's always misdirection. So this week, what happened in the news to misdirect you was North Korea apparently launched a nuclear missile and of course failed, which is what they want you to believe. Where did you hear that? Why do you believe that? Have you ever been to North Korea? Do you know any North Koreans? Or the moon landing hoax, or any of that BS? We actually live in the Matrix, and they actually want you to be in a constant state of fear. Think for yourself, which is something they'll never teach you in the government indoctrination camps, which you were sent to for 12 years of your childhood. Actually, hockey is one of the only decent games out there, and I'm going to not stand for the national anthem, and I'll get beaten to death live on Facebook tonight. Check it out. So that's why you should actually not really ever turn on that television programming. It's called programming for a reason. Get rid of Federal Reserve notes. I don't know if you've ever turned around the $1 bill and looked at the back of it. It's actually got a pyramid with an all-seeing eye on it. And because of that, you should actually own gold, silver, and Bitcoin, but it's actually not important. We really got to get in touch with your inner soul and your inner heart and connect with the universe, which is all love. I don't know. Korean girls are hot as hell. You're a slave.
One more time. Jeff? Jeff. What happened?
All right, I got an answer.
What happened in the news with gold and Bitcoin in relation to the latest news from North Korea? Can you please lay all of those three down in unison as they happened this week, please?
Sure. What's really important is how you feel, and that you actually take care of yourself as a human being and actually get control of your actual thoughts and don't be a programmed individual.
Yeah, but what happened in the news last week?
There's no news. Nothing's new. Actually, time doesn't even exist. It's always now.
You just blabbered on there. It's supposed to be a newscast.
Well, buy Bitcoin. It will destroy central banks, which will get rid of all wars on Earth, which will eventually get rid of all governments, which is a completely unnecessary evil. F*** you, Luke. You fucking trying to censor me? This is fucking fake news. This is fake news.
What happened last week, Jeff?
I don't know. What do you want me to say, Luke, you controlling propaganda shill?
What happened in Bitcoin news, Jeff? Tell me about why I shouldn't have my Bitcoin in Coinbase.
Okay, this is interesting. So some people have been saying you shouldn't hold your Bitcoin on Coinbase, and that's great advice, actually. You should never hold your Bitcoin anywhere that you don't control. Bitcoin is essentially cash. So when you hold your Bitcoin on an exchange, you're essentially giving your cash. Imagine you're giving like your $1,000, you're just giving it to some guy and hoping he gives it back. Bitcoin is the same as gold and silver. If you don't own it, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So that's a good reason. But the reason it's actually come up is because Coinbase has actually come out with a really incredibly stupid and kind of not very cool thing about the potential Bitcoin fork, and this gets a little technical, but Bitcoin could potentially fork in the next few weeks or months, and if it does, what happens is there's two Bitcoin forks, and Coinbase has said they're only going to support one of them, so you essentially get robbed of half of your Bitcoin, essentially. It gets complicated, it gets technical, mathematics, all that kind of stuff, but it's actually not very cool what they said. So if you do actually own Bitcoin and you hold it on Coinbase, I would suggest you just take it off and put it into your own wallet. And of course, Bitcoin is always best stored personally. That's why Bitcoin is so beautiful. That's why Barack Drone Bomber actually said that having Bitcoin is like having a Swiss bank account. It's actually way better than having a Swiss bank account because no one can actually take it away from you if you don't want them to, unless they have some sort of supercomputing power that's not earthly or not human based. And what I would suggest is you just hold it offline. And of course, you can hold $1 billion of Bitcoin if you want, if you had $1 billion in your own mind. That's the power of Bitcoin. That's why it's going to destroy central banks and governments and create peace and prosperity on Earth like we've never known it.
And that's simply by memorizing codes and numbers.
Yeah, just memorizing your passphrase, essentially.
Yes, finally! Thank you, Jeff Berwick of the Dollar Vigilante. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like and share it with your friends and family members. We will be back next week and hopefully a better attempt at telling you exactly what happened this week that you should and do deserve to know, and will only because of real independent media. I'm gonna say, I guess, thank you.
Mega.
F*** the police.